Peace. Today the Power Refinement Day, so I just wanted to build on the science of 5, or power refinement. A lot of y'all may hear guys and nurse say, the power is the truth. But it's like a lot of people don't explain that shit, right? It's like this. Anything that's true, for something to be true, it has to be actual and based in reality. So how do you establish that something is based in reality or actual? You use mathematics. Mathematics is the operating system of the universe, so everything adheres to mathematics. I mean, even a wind. You may not be able to see it, but you can actually measure the direction that the wind is traveling in and the velocity that the wind has. So that even adheres to mathematics. Another way of establishing that which is actual or fact is through the 5 senses. Going back to the number 5, we're dealing with the science of power. If you can either touch, taste, smell, or hear it, touch, taste, smell, hear, or see it, then it's real. It's actual. If it does not submit to any of the 5 senses, then the shit don't exist. You know what I'm saying? When you think about power, power is force, strength, and energy. So how is the truth force, strength, and energy? The thing about the truth being actual or based in reality is when something is brought to you that's true, it forces you to make a decision. That's why power is equal to the truth, because it's a force. It forces you to make a choice. For example, if you're married and you come home and you have, for an actual fact, you know that your husband is cheating on you. Discovering that truth is going to force you to make a decision. You know what I'm saying? What you going to do? Throw a hot batch of cream of wheat on that motherfucker's back when he's sleeping? Or you going to confront him about the shit? You know what I'm saying? Or is you going to front like you don't know the shit and just go ahead and get your shit off and just ride the marriage out? You know what I'm saying? Or is you going to go meet a divorce lawyer first thing Monday morning? You know what I'm saying? Being confronted with that truth is going to force you to make a decision, right? Same thing if you're sitting in a restaurant and you eating some banging ass God degree or some food, and halfway through your plate you look down and you see half the body of a roach on your plate. What the fuck are you gonna do? You just gonna finish off your plate, or you gonna go talk to the manager and say, "Sir, I didn't order garbanzo beans, and I don't think that this is a garbanzo bean because garbanzo beans don't have legs." You know what I mean? You're gonna be forced to make a decision. You know, so that's how power is the truth, or truth is power, and it symbolizes a force. Well, how does it symbolize strength? Well, when you're confronted with the truth, you have to have a certain degree of strength as well as energy to deal with the shit that what's been laid in your lap. You know what I'm saying? And you take it to the power degree in the 1 to 10s, the student enrollment, it says what is the total area square miles of planet Earth? It says 196,940,000 square miles. So it's like, generally speaking, that's the square miles of the planet Earth, but it does not mention the terrain of the planet. It doesn't give you any information about the geography. It doesn't tell you that there's lakes and rivers, hills and mountains, deserts. There's Mount Everest. You see what I'm saying? So in order to traverse these different landscapes, you have to have a certain degree of energy or power. So that's the same exact way when you're confronted with the truth. The truth symbolizes different terrains in your life. Some shit may be an open plain and it may be easy for you to deal with. Other things may be like Mount Everest. That shit may be as insurmountable as 29,141 feet high, and in order to rise to that summit, you have to approach or deal with that truth a certain way. Some people, if they find out that their mate is married, that shit, it may take them some time to come to terms with it and have the emotional strength to be able to make the decision that they need to make in that situation, you see? And it's like when you take it truth in the supreme alphabet, it's wisdom cipher. That's the 20th letter in the supreme alphabet. So wisdom cipher is like, wisdom is discernment. It's also judgment. So wisdom adheres to the science of justice, because judgment is an aspect of justice. Justice is symbolized by the scales, going back to the science of making a decision, because wisdom is discernment, or it's making a decision. So truth is manifested in every cipher, any person, place, or thing in this universe. And when you're confronted with a situation, you're going to be forced to make a decision, and the best decision to make is a wise one. So that's wisdom cipher. You take that T, or truth, or square. Square is an instrument that's used in the building trades, namely like carpentry and shit like that, and it's shaped like the letter L. You see what I'm saying? And it's a perpendicular instrument. It's 90-degree angle. It's a right angle, and it allows you to try stones or other different materials to see if it's right and exact for you to use in your project in order to build with. So it's like same thing with certain people. If a certain person comes at you a certain way, you see and measure if they come in the right angle. If they are, you know that they're perpendicular. Perpendicular means upright. You see? So if a person is having a right angle, then they have a degree of righteousness. They're being upright. They're being perpendicular. Take that shit to biblical accounts or to the Quranic accounts. Iblis, or Satan, which is the opposite of righteousness, or right or perpendicular, was kicked the fuck out of heaven. So upright means above, so that's why he was symbolically kicked out of heaven, because he was dealing with a horizontal plane of living and thinking, you see? So, you know, going back to truth, it's like I said, you know, when you are traversing all square miles of the planet Earth, and that is also to say that regardless of where you're at, the truth is the truth. You know what I'm saying? Mathematics applies the same exact way if you in China or if you in Boise, motherfucking Idaho. The truth is the truth. You know, mathematics is always the same. The five senses are going to be the same, you see? But it's like you may come to situations where it's almost like Mount Everest. And the thing about Mount Everest is you may be confronted with a truth in your life that seems insurmountable like that, and you can't just run right and just deal with that shit. You got to have the appropriate strategy as well as strength in order to deal with that shit. You know, it's the same way with a mountain climber dealing with Mount Everest. They can't just run right up that motherfucker and climb it. They have to camp out at different points along, you know, different altitudes of Mount Everest, because the air gets thinner. So they need time for their physical body to readjust to the thinness of the air. You see, because they could suffer from something called cerebral edema, which means the swelling of the brain, you know, because the body is not getting the same amount of oxygen that it would get in normal altitudes. You see, so it's the same exact way emotionally for a person to handle situations that seem like a mountain in their life. You acknowledge me? It's like you have to deal with that shit in increments, the same way a mountain climber would have to camp out and handle whatever they can and allow their body to readjust to that particular altitude before they get to the point where they reach the summit. You see? So, you know, like I said, you know, truth is symbolic to power. It's a force. It forces you to make a decision in your life. And going back to wisdom cipher, if you break the shit in half, you got 10 and 10. 10 is justice, or the letter J in the alphabet. So when you are confronted with the truth, going back to the scales or discernment, the decision you choose to make or don't choose to make is going to manifest two forms of justice, either a reward or a penalty. You see what I'm saying? That's knowledge cipher. You see, so, you know, with all of that said, I just wanted to say, you know, truth is symbolic to power, or power is the truth. And all of us are going to be forced to make a decision when something is laid in our lap that adheres to what is real and what is actual. And if we don't make a choice, the choice is going to be made for us. You see, and to leave you with this quote I got from this older minister. He's like in his Bill Ciphers one day. He told me, he said that you could always outlive a lie, but you can't outlive the truth. So with all that said, peace.